everyone. Welcome back to Fierce in the Field. I have Kacy Standohar in studio today. I'm so excited to have you in. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Josie. I know we've been waiting to do this. I'm
Yes.
Kacy Standohar, and I am a reporter and anchor at NBC Chicago. I also do some freelance work for FS1 and the Big East Conference.
Yeah, and you just went to Paris.
I did.
How was that?
I went with my boyfriend, and we had
So
such a great time. Just went for like 5 days.
Okay.
It was beautiful. I mean, I've never been there. He's never been there.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to just see all the sights, do the museums, do the things we wanted to do. But it was hot. It was like 94
Really?
degrees.
Okay.
So, and like nowhere in Paris has like air.
Were you just in Paris, or were
We were
you
just in Paris?
Okay.
We decided to just like stay in
Yes.
Paris, take our time, walk around, live like a local.
Yeah.
So we loved it, but it was warm.
Fun. I need to get to Europe. I haven't been to Europe since I was 14 years old.
Okay, so that's good. At least you went.
At least
My
I've
first time
been.
was last year.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Where'd you go?
We went to me and the girls. We did a girls trip in Sardinia, Italy, and then we also did Nice and Cannes and Saint Tropez and Monaco. So it was like Mediterranean girls, south
Yeah.
of France beach trip.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah.
My sister went to the Amalfi Coast
I wanna
last
go
summer,
there
and I'm
too.
like, I need to go.
That's
Why
on
didn't
my
I go
list.
with you?
That's
Yeah.
on my list.
That's
for
like
sure.
next on my list. Also, if I needed to pick like a bucket list place, it would be Australia,
Oh yeah.
which is a crazy travel destination. But if I could ever go there,
Yeah.
I would do that.
I have a friend who's literally honeymooning right now in South Africa, which also seems really cool.
The safari in
She's
South
like
Africa.
in Cape Town. Yeah. So
No way.
we gotta go all the places.
Yes, I need to check it off. We have time. We'll
Yes.
get there. Yeah. Okay, so literally just if you give us a rundown on what you've been working on recently. Yeah.
So I've been at NBC Chicago for the past 7 months. It's been a
Amazing.
great experience because you're in a top 3 market, you're getting experience anchoring, reporting. And so I'll anchor usually on Tuesday nights and some other nights too. It kind of depends. My schedule varies. And then I will also go out and report live. For example, like this Friday, I'm going to cover the White Sox anniversary game and their 05 reunion, and they're unveiling the Mark Burley statue. And so there's a lot going on, honoring Bobby Jenks, who passed away. So that'll be fun to kind of be out and about there. But it's great to do stories, special features for sports, to report live at events. Right now we're in the middle of baseball season, so it's tough because Bears hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
Blackhawks and Bulls haven't really started yet. So we're in that time where it's like things are going to be ramping up soon.
Yeah, you're like kind of preparing for the storm a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah. Okay, I want to go back like all the way to the beginning.
Sure.
Young Kacy, she's kind of getting started. What really sparked your interest in journalism and sports in general, especially if you were little? Did you play sports?
Yeah, I did play sports. I played softball when I was younger.
Okay.
I wasn't very good. I was definitely more the dancer cheerleader type,
Yes.
which I also loved, and I know we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
But my brother played baseball all the way through college, and he played for a Division II school. And my dad always loved sports, so sports was always in our family. It was like football, baseball, golf, basketball. Those were like our favorite sports. And I grew up in Northeast Ohio, so we loved like all the Cleveland teams.
Yeah.
And I did have a strong like feeling that I loved writing. So I knew I was like, okay, I either want to be a teacher or like teach English or do something with English and writing. And then my mom's actually was a special education teacher for her whole life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. She just retired recently.
Okay.
And she was basically like, don't be a teacher.
Oh,
talked me
she
out of
warned
it.
you. She's like,
She was
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Gotcha.
Just because, education has changed and it still is changing, and, there are different challenges and the pay structure, and it's a lot. So
Yeah.
she said, use your writing background and your love for writing in English for something else, because I was never really a math or science girl.
Neither.
Not my
No.
thing.
No.
So when I went to college, I was like, all right, I'll try journalism. And I knew I really liked writing. And I think I wanted to be at the time a print journalist. I was like, I'm going to write for the Chicago Tribune one day. Like, that was my dream. Or like Teen Vogue.
Yeah. That would be like so cool to do.
Amazing,
Yeah.
right? And around the time I graduated college, to be honest, I'm aging myself probably, but the print stuff was starting to die. Like, print journalism was kind of dying, and our phones were becoming more important than ever, and Instagram was coming out, and you were consuming content in different ways other than getting your local newspaper or reading it on the website. Now, there is still, I think, an importance in being a good long-form writer and doing, actual print writing, or whether it's web writing, whatever. But my dream kind of shifted, and I think I wanted to be a news anchor. I interned at a local station in Youngstown, Ohio, WKBN, and I was a web and production intern.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is cool. I like this too.
Yeah.
It's different, right? You're writing scripts, you're more brief, it's quicker. TV is so different. And so kind of fell in love with the TV side. Got my first job at an NBC affiliate actually in Youngstown.
Oh, awesome.
And that's where I was like, okay, I want to be a news anchor. I want to be like the 6 o'clock news anchor, you know? And
6 p.m. or
6 p.m. Yeah, I want to be like the 6 and 11. Like,
yes.
You know, the main person. Like that was like my goal, like on the billboards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that news, you know, got to be really tough. I mean, it can be depressing.
It's,
you know?
well, especially you think about the news today.
Right.
Like you think about what happened in Texas.
Right.
And you're like, if I had to, it's horrible. And it kind of makes you sad. It's hard. Yeah.
100% makes you sad. And so I kind of worked my way out of news, and I was in production for a while. And that's not to say I wouldn't go back to news, because I might. And I think it is good to diversify your profile and do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But then I said, okay, well, how can I still do this and apply my degree in journalism, but maybe not do news production?
Yeah.
So I actually took some time off in the industry, and I was in marketing and production.
I saw that. I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did like a lot of PR and advertising, because my minor was public relations.
Right. And it's similar. Things cross paths.
Yeah. The skills apply. And so I worked for a couple agencies in social media and marketing and PR, and I loved that experience too. Definitely the pay was better. The hours were better. You're 9 to 5, you know, you're making good money. You have insurance. But something inside me was still like itching to go back.
Yeah. Like it's not right.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I moved to Chicago in 2018.
Okay.
And that's when I started to like pursue the broadcasting dream again.
Yeah.
So I kind of just went out with a tripod and a camera and shot things outside of Wrigley Field or the United Center just to get reps, just to get experience.
Just like by yourself.
Exactly.
That's what you have to do. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I worked with a talent coach named Jill Montgomery, who was extremely helpful in kind of developing me in the early stages to how to talk on camera and how to hold the microphone and what to do, what not to do, how to ask good questions.
Yeah.
So she was really helpful, and I just kind of started from scratch. I was still working advertising during the day. Mm-hmm. Then at night I would go out and just like work for free and cover high school football, high school basketball, high school baseball, women's softball, whatever I could get my hands on, just to get that tape. And so that's kind of how I got back into sports. Yeah.
How did you kind of balance still working in the marketing side, but also shifting to sports at the same time?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. And, you know, like, because something suffers, right? You're either not preparing for your sports gig as much as you want to, or you're not doing as great of a job at your 9 to 5. And so COVID happened, and it was actually kind of a blessing for me. I know that sounds terrible, because it was a horrible, horrible thing, but it kind of shocked me into like getting laid off, having to figure it out again. Yeah. And then saying, I'm going to put all my energy, time, effort into sports. Yeah. I don't know how yet. I don't know what it's going to look like. And so I took one more advertising job just to kind of get some money saved up. And then once I had an opportunity to go full time in sports is when I found the CHGO media company. Yeah. So CHGO kind of started in, I think it was 2021 or 2. Okay. I actually forget when it started, but I helped head up their social media. Yeah. Which was a full-time job in sports. Rare. Yeah. Right? And so kind of did that, was all in on sports. Loved it, but still wasn't quite what I wanted.
Right, because it wasn't broadcast yet. Yeah.
I did appear on podcasts, and they gave me opportunities to go out and cover things and be on social media. Loved it, and that was still a great experience. And the people there are great, but it still was like, okay, you really want to be on camera. You really want to tell athlete stories. You want to be a reporter. You love doing this. Like, find a way to do that. Yeah. And then again, like, got jolted into reality when I think 2 years later I got laid off at CHGO. They made some cuts, and they made cuts since then. And then, you know, the business was changing. And so I kind of was, once again, freelancing a lot. And during that time, I was freelancing for WCIU, doing high school, Illinois high school basketball and football games, doing the state championships, doing a lot for the Big East Conference, whether it's track and field or softball or baseball and FS1. Love that stuff. Yeah. And I still try to do those things. Yeah, absolutely. Because the Big East Conference took a chance on me, and I love them. And, you know, that those things kind of helped me find my way. And then in November of last year, I got an audition at NBC Chicago, and that's kind of how that that started.
How it happens.
Yeah.
You just got to kind of push yourself and work really hard. How were you able to kind of stay motivated? Because being laid off is obviously really hard. And you kind of look ahead and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much more to do to actually show for myself. Yeah. How did you stay confident in your work?
It's hard. You have days where you're like, I can't do this. Yeah. Like you have moments of like, I'm not going to sit here and tell people watching this or tell you like that I always believed. Right. To be honest, there were times where I didn't. And still even I have days where I'm like, man, can I make this work long term? Because it's a really tough competitive business. Yeah. And freelancing is hard because you have to piece different gigs together. And so I never want to sugarcoat that for people that are trying to get into it. Right. Because I think I didn't know those things in the beginning. Yeah. But you lean on your support system. You constantly look for, your parents, whether it's a loved one, friends, to kind of help back you up and say, no, you're really good at this. You got to keep going. And you got to look at yourself in the mirror and remind yourself, like, I can do this.
There's a reason why you're doing this.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like God gave me this gift and he wants me to keep pursuing this, and it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And so I kind of just kept going, and there were days where I wanted to quit, and there are days where I said, all right, if I don't find anything by this date, I'm out. Right. But something always came up. Right. And it was like something always kept me in. And so there's a story about John Krasinski, the actor, who he decided he wanted to be an actor. He moved to New York with like no money. He gave it a chance. And he was like, Mom, this isn't working. I don't know if I can do this. This is like really, really tough. And she said, just write it out like a few more months. Yeah. And like 2 weeks later, he got the office. So it's like,
you just have to keep going.
Right. Yeah. You never know what's behind that next door if you don't just keep going.
Sometimes you've got to like feel like you've hit rock bottom to actually work your way up, which is important. Yeah. Totally. Oh, okay. Well, I want to go back a little bit. You're in college. You're a majorette.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. How did that experience kind of help you learn about women's athletic teams and kind of be a part of a collegiate program where there are men's teams and you're kind of working alongside them?
Yes, absolutely. I loved my experience as a Youngstown State majorette. They were called the Penguinettes because we were the Penguins.
Yeah, I love it.
And the Penguinettes are basically a group of women who are dancers and majorettes for the halftime shows of the football games, for special events, for basketball, whatever it might be, pregame. And that setting is a teamwork setting. Yeah. And you apply that same skill throughout your entire career. Even in broadcasting, it's a team, right? Yeah. You have an editor, a producer, an assignment desk person. You have your photographer, someone who's putting together your stuff. So, oftentimes you have to rely on teams, and that was a good team setting. And I learned a lot about the importance of women in sports. And, people say, oh, dance isn't really a women's sport, but I believe that it is. Gymnastics 100%. And dance, yeah. And so that was a crazy experience because I didn't know how to twirl a baton at all.
Oh, okay.
I only had a dance background. Right. I had danced competitively all my life.
Okay.
And they were like, don't worry about it. The audition's just mostly dance. You just have to learn the fight song with the baton. Yeah. I go in there and all the girls know how to twirl it and they're like, psh, like doing all the things. Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I'm not going to make the team. No. I don't know how to, I'm like holding this thing. Like,
you're like, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I went home. My mom always thinks this is the funniest story, but I went home and I literally watched videos and taught myself how to twirl a baton like by myself.
That's what you had to do.
Like between the fingers and just the wrists, the movements. And I practiced my butt off in our like high loft ceiling so I wouldn't hit anything. And I did it and I made the team. And I think that kind of mindset of like teaching yourself and doing it yourself has carried me into my sports broadcasting career.
I was going to say, like, I would think back on that all the time and be like, if I'm down on myself, think about that time when you had to teach yourself how to twirl a baton.
Right. It's so fake it till you make it. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it is. It's like, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way.
I'll figure it out. And I think I was just listening to, the Calm Down podcast. Yes. They had an episode, I think a couple months ago, and they were talking about fake it till you make it. And they were kind of debating. They're like, oh, a lot of people put this negative connotation to it. Like, oh, you can't fake anything. You shouldn't be fake. But it's more so like, be confident.
Confidence, yes.
And it's going to pay off. I think that's really what it is.
It's finding a way in the midst of doubt and confusion and fear, right? That's what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. What were you involved in at your time in college with sports, journalism, broadcasting? What really kind of helped you make that jump into the professional industry?
Yeah, in college, I was a part of the Jambar newspaper. The newspaper was called the Jambar, and the Jambar was a tool that was used in like the steel mill days to like jam steel. Right. So it's literally like an old fashioned tool, and Youngstown is a steel town. Yeah. So our student newspaper was called the Jam Bar, and I started as the features editor, and I wrote a lot of fun feature stories. Again, print only.
Yeah.
And then I moved into the role of a news editor. And so I was doing a lot of that, breaking stories, front page stories, like trying to really work my way through that. And I did a couple sports features too. Okay. And one of the sports features that I did was on the Youngstown State football head coach. His name was Eric Wolford, and his son, who had like a rare disease that could stunt his growth and could, possibly shorten his life. And so I kind of spent the day with his family and learned how they, work with their son Stone to give him a great life and what the challenges are with that. And that story, that sports feature, won an award in college. And so I kind of was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
This feels meaningful and good and rewarding to be able to tell this other side of sports that people don't really see every day.
Yeah, and know that people are listening to it and watching it and think it's good. I feel like that's so special.
Totally. Yeah. So that kind of ignited my love, I think, for saying, I can do sports. And I already loved the game. I loved baseball. I loved football. So that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks.
What about applying your senior year? You're trying to figure out what you want to do. That's probably the hardest thing ever. I'm about to get into it myself in a couple months. But how are you kind of able to network yourself and really land that first job in the industry?
Well, I feel like you're already like light years ahead of where I was. Like you've already had great internships.
I appreciate that, but thank you.
Yeah. I was kind of lost. Yeah. I feel like I interned at the news station in town.
Right.
Because I needed it for class credit.
Yeah.
And I got a B in my internship. I was still really upset about that. I was like,
you got graded in your internship?
Yeah. I got a grade. Yeah. And so I got a B. I was like, what? But anyway. I was like, I know I can't move very far away. Financially, it would be too tough. And I tried really hard after college to get jobs in local TV. But all of the jobs, I was either getting rejection letters or it was too far, not enough money. Like I think I got an offer in Northern California, which would have been beautiful. It was like Monterey Bay, California.
Beautiful.
But it was like, hey, here's $30K, and you're like, I'm gonna be living in a box.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah. So I just couldn't make it work. And they were like, well, Jim Nance is a big fan of the station. I'm like, that's cool, but is Jim Nance paying my rent? So it was just tough. And so I kind of stayed local for a while. And I worked in TV at, like I told you, at the station in town. But there are days where sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I would have done an internship like out in New York or out in California or somewhere that would have guided me a little bit better to what I'm doing now, but still a valuable experience. No regrets, because it all kind of worked out in the end.
Yeah. And you were a producer in that first job, right? So how did you, first of all, what were you kind of feeling those moments? Did you liked production? Did you enjoy it? And then how did you kind of make that shift into knowing, oh, I want to be on air?
I loved production. I did. Okay. I liked kind of calling the shots and being in charge, because you get to decide what anchor reads what and what graphics going to go in there and how it kind of all fits together and what we're going to do first. But it was a stressful job, certainly. There were times I made mistakes where I'm like, man, I should have went out to this story instead, or the other station had this story, we should have been there.
Yeah.
So I got those early lessons like early on. And again, I just think I worked midnights. That was the toughest part. I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay.
So that was brutal.
That was really hard.
For my social life, dating life, my health. Like, I wasn't eating well. Couldn't date anyone. No. Couldn't really have a life.
When did you sleep? Were you
during the day when everybody was at work? And so for a social person like me, that wasn't going to cut it, I think. And that's what kind of led me into marketing and advertising. And I always tell students that ask me, like, it's okay to change your mind a ton of times.
Yeah.
You don't have to know. It's such a hard decision at 18, 19, 20, where you're going to go to school, what you're going to study. And then you don't also have to know at 22, 23 exactly what your career is going to look like.
Because it's going to change so much.
Yes.
What do you think about this stigma, like, oh, you need to start in this big market, or you need to have it all figured out, or you need to do this? Because you kind of said you don't have to have it all figured out.
Well, every path is different.
Right.
There's no cookie cutter path to make it in this business. You've had people like Taylor McGregor on this show where she went local and then she went to the Rockies and now she's with the Cubs, and she's worked her way up that way.
Yeah.
Some people do 3 or 4 local markets before they, get to a regional or a national network. Someone like me, I freelanced. I didn't really do a ton of local market work.
No.
I did the 2 stations I told you about in Youngstown. I was at a station in Columbus for a short period of time, producing as well and doing a little bit of work there. And then I kind of just said, I'm gonna just cherry pick and do things for ESPN Plus and do things for Fox Sports and do things for the local stations and, you know, whatever I can to kind of build up my resume. And people can make it both ways. And so there is that weird stigma of like, you gotta go here, and it's like, you don't. You can go to a small town in Iowa to try to make it, or you can start in New York City. You know, it's just
whatever's gonna work best for you, and you're gonna learn so much about yourself. And that kind of, I was gonna ask, like, it sounds like you did wear a lot of hats, and you did kind of go to a lot of different places. What did you learn most about yourself? Kind of, you're really hustling there, and you're learning a lot.
Yeah, I learned that you have to be resilient. Yeah. And that it's never gonna come easy. You know, the business is unfair. Oftentimes people get jobs for whatever reason and you can't control that. Right. You just have to focus on you. And it took me a really long time to like finally believe that. Like I was always like getting caught in the comparison trap. I'll admit it. I'll admit it. It was tough. I'm like, oh man, this person's doing this and I wish I was doing that. And I had to snap out of it. And I got advice from people who said, try to, you know, keep your blinders on and be singularly focused on your path.
I always say work with blinders on. That's so funny you just said that. Yes, it's so hard, but you have to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I kind of started to just focus on me, do my best, had moments of doubt, certainly, that's when stuff started to come, because then you're doing your best on the next gig. Yeah. All you can focus on is the next gig. Yeah. I can't worry about my gig in 2 weeks. I've got to worry about what I'm covering Friday. Right. Tomorrow, you know? So, and it's just kind of like, once you do that, people will find you because you're being yourself and you're working your butt off and you're genuinely, authentically you.
Yeah. How are you able to kind of stay in that moment? Because I've talked about it before, you know, it's hard to be like, okay, I'm doing this now. What should I do in a year? Or what should I do in a couple months? Or when baseball season rolls around, what am I going to do for that? Right. No, you should be focusing on football season. Right. How do you stay really present?
It's really hard to do. Yeah. Especially the financial element of it, where you're going, okay, summer's kind of my slow month and I'm doing this, and this. And then, you know, in the fall I'll have more work, but that's not yet. And you're trying to budget, you're trying to plan. You're also trying to always get work when you're not doing the work. Like people are hiring for football now in April, May, June. Like people have, you know, so you kind of have to always be sending the email, reaching out, doing the outreach, connecting, networking. So it's really hard to stay in the present moment. Yeah. And I wish I had an easier, better answer for this, but I think for me, it was about prayer. It was about relying on people who I'm close to. It was about trusting that the next thing will come. I didn't expect to get this job at NBC Chicago. I had wanted to work here for years. I literally came here in college and stood in front of the NBC Tower and was like, I'm going to work here one day. And then, like, I do now, but I didn't know that a year ago.
Or you didn't even know how it was going to play out, you know?
Yeah. No, you really don't. No. And random things come up, because the better you are at networking and connecting and being a kind person, people will pick up the phone and say, hey, Josie, I've got a gig. Are you interested? Yeah. That you didn't even expect would be a thing. No. So you just never know. You have to kind of trust the chaos and the path and, you know, just keep going.
Exactly. And I always think, like, okay, if I told me a year ago what I was doing now, right, at Settle House, you have this podcast, you wouldn't believe it at all. Right. Because it's just like, you really can't, as much as you think you can plan that far ahead, you really can't, because you never know what's going to come up.
It's very true.
Very true.
And you have to kind of look back and be proud of yourself for how far you have come. Yes. Because it's easy to go, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing this now, but I really want to do this, this, and this. And it's like, wait, look back at the girl who didn't have this a year ago. Yeah.
She would think it was so cool. Yeah.
So you have to be like, okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah. I get to enjoy this a little bit.
Yeah. No, totally. I want to know, you moved to Chicago. You worked for the Chicago Dogs for a little bit. You worked with the Bandits and then Illini, which is awesome. DePaul. How have all of these teams kind of made an impact on you, and which one really stands out as far as your professional work you really learned a good lesson from?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. There's so many. I mean, the fact that a lot of these places even gave me a chance in the early days is huge, but two of them stand out to me. The Chicago Bandits were the first team that said, yeah, you can come and do this. Yeah. One of the girls that used to work there, her name's Jordan, and Jordan now works for Fox Sports out in on the West Coast. Awesome. And she was like, hey, we really, you know, like, you can come out and shoot stuff and, like, do interviews. We can't really pay you because we're a small, you know, women's pro softball team, but you can certainly come get experience. We'd be happy to have you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thank you.
They trusted you.
Exactly. Yeah. And her trusting me, I always thank her for this, led me to the Big East saying like, yeah, we like your softball experience.
Yeah.
We'll use you on, you know, our first ever NPF like championship game. And then that's how the Big East found me, and FS1 said, oh yeah, we'll use you on softball. So it all kind of was like a trickle down effect because of someone taking a chance on me with the Bandits.
Yeah.
So that's really big for me. The Big East family has been incredible to me. Scott Hacht and the team there have been so kind and gracious to give me more and more opportunities. And also I will say DePaul was a huge one. I mean, all of my experiences are great, but DePaul has been so good to me. They let me do games in women's basketball a few years ago on the sideline.
Awesome.
I've done softball. I've done random, just anything they needed, really. And even more recently, you know, a podcast. And I hosted the Billy Awards. So they have kind of used me as like their go-to person, and I'm really grateful for them.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about DePaul. How did you first kind of get in touch with them? And I know we'll touch on the podcast in a little bit as well.
Yeah. They were one of the schools that's right here, right in Chicago. And so, and through the Big East, their women's softball team at the time was in the championship game. So I was calling some games for them through that. And I just kind of stayed in touch with Paul and the gang over there, Taylor and everybody has been just so gracious with their time and willing to let me do more and more because one, I'm 10, 15 minutes away. Yeah. And, you know, they liked what they saw. And so I'm really grateful for that. And they do a really nice job of finding new ways to incorporate on-air talent, whether it's students or just young professionals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it kind of just worked out. It was like a strike of luck. And, you know, a lot of the things that I've gotten are because I picked up the phone and just asked. Yeah. Like at UIC, they were, they had a reporter for men's basketball for ESPN Plus, but I just said, hey, I'm an upcoming sports reporter. I'd love to do your games if you need any help. Let me know. And they were like, actually, the guy who really does it all the time can't make it this week. Could you be here on Friday? And I was like, yep.
I'm there.
You know? And so like I crammed and prepared, but that's how it starts. You become a fill-in person. You do it once. Same thing with Illinois. I mean, I picked up the phone one day when I was walking my dog and I called Brett, who's in charge of football over there. And I just said to Brett, I said, do you guys need a reporter for Illinois games? And he was like, well, we've been looking for someone, but we really haven't found that right person yet. But, you know, send me your stuff and we'll talk. And I did and came up with like a pitch of what I could do for them. And they liked it. And so honestly, I tell people like, pick up the phone.
Just ask.
Call. Just ask. Email. Just try. If you don't try, the answer's always no.
The worst thing you can get is a no.
Right.
And
or they could ignore you. And that's fine too.
And that's also fine.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times, most people at least that I've encountered are like, hey, you know what? It's a no today, but this is so awesome that you're doing this. Your drive is great. Yeah. Like I've never, especially if you're, you know, like a lot of people don't get phone calls like that. So I think that's really great. You always just have to ask.
Well, timing is everything too.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just not the right time.
Yeah.
You know, I reached out to NBC Chicago years ago.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't even ready for the gig then or experienced enough. And the timing wasn't right.
Right.
And so now it is.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason and everything's going to happen at the right time.
Right.
Do you have a story about you really got out of your comfort zone, you were given a task and you were like, I don't know if I can do this, but you did it anyway and it paid off?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like one. I feel like I have so many. I was asked last October to fill in for the radio broadcaster for the Illinois versus Michigan football game.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to do Big Ten football. And it was on the radio, which is still a great experience. And I just said yes. I was actually visiting my boyfriend when he was even further away in Washington. Yeah. And they were like, can you fill in on this game? It's our, you know, our stadium rededication game. It's the game versus Michigan. Like, it's a big matchup. And they have these cool uniforms and it's just the whole thing. And I was like, yes. And I was terrified, but I was like, I can do this. Yeah. Like, I'm going to nail this. Yeah. And it ended up being a great experience.
So
and
good.
I think fear drives you a little bit and just kind of like having that adrenaline rush of, all right, this is crazy. I've never done anything like this in my life, but I'm going to do it today and feel good about it.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot. It's, again, like trusting yourself. A lot of times, even for me, I'm like, oh, I've never done play-by-play before. I can't do that. Yeah. I've never done color before. I can't do that.
That's another good example. Yeah. I actually didn't even think about that. Yeah. I was asked to do play-by-play for soccer, high school soccer last year.
Okay.
Terrified. I don't think I was very good. But glad I tried it.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I've never done it before, but I think I'm going to find myself doing it in the fall maybe once.
You got to start somewhere.
I've got to start somewhere. And even if I don't think I do a good job with it, which probably is mostly in my head, or if I don't like it, then at least I give it a shot. Right. Which I think I'll regret not giving it a shot.
And I will say, for women in the business, if you're a good play-by-play, you're going to be working. You're going to go far.
Oh, yeah.
So if you find that you do like it a little bit or like it even just enough to keep going, do it, because you will find success there. Yeah. You know, because the business is always looking for more talented female play-by-play.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's your advice when you're kind of balancing? Because a lot of the times, you know, you're pursuing a career as an MMJ when you're younger, you're taking your phone out to Wrigley Field, like you said, you're balancing that production side, the reporting side, and kind of all these different things together. If you could, you know, from your experience, give one piece of advice for that, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. The balance is tough. Mm-hmm. There are days where you miss bachelorette parties and weddings and things that you really want to be a part of. But I think if you have the drive and the passion to do this job, you will just find ways to make it work, and your friends and people that you care about will understand. Time management is key. Preparing ahead of time is key. Always being prepared. Just always having notes like you do, and watching past games, doing the research. Sometimes you might have 2 games back to back. You might have a game, you know, in Champaign on Thursday and then one on Friday at DePaul. And so preparing ahead, talking to coaches ahead of time, just map out your week like it's your full-time job and say, all right, I'm going to do this call with this coach on my lunch break, and then I'm going to keep those notes, and then I'm going to go do this game. And so it's a juggling act for sure. And I don't think that there's a perfect science to it. Not. No, but I think if you just plan ahead, you'll find that you're not scrambling as much for sure.
Oh, 100%. Do you have like a self-care day that you like to plan out for yourself? Because I think a lot of times, like you said, like, oh, you're going to use your lunch break to call this person. But then sometimes you just need to sit down. A breather and like sleep for a little bit. What's like your ideal? You have a day off. What are you doing?
Yeah. My days off vary at NBC because my schedule changes. But I will just wake up, try to sleep in. My dog wakes me up early.
Okay.
I'll spend time with him, take him on a walk.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a little dachshund, a little wiener dog.
Cute. My sister wants that dog. That's like her dream dog.
He's adorable, but he's also a pain in the butt and very ornery. But he's fun. His name's Bernie. Anyway, I'll spend time with Bernie. I'll try to make a good breakfast, eggs and toast, something that makes me feel nourished. And then try to get a workout in upstairs at my apartment gym, or at least just go for another walk if it's nice out. You know, just get moving. I call my mom a lot, so I always call my mom and just kind of chit chat about whatever's going on. So that always makes me feel good and just kind of get things out in the open. But I mean, it's a day where I don't want to wear any makeup, right? It's a day where I'm like, give my face a break, because I'm constantly wearing a ton of makeup caked on for TV.
Doing your hair or putting so much heat. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a day where you're just like, all right, ponytail, baseball hat, no makeup, maybe some sunscreen. You get a good meal, get a smoothie, like kind of just feel good about yourself and rest. I mean, maybe that's catching up, you know, on a show you like, or, you know, just hanging out and calling friends. Or maybe it's like going to get lunch like with a friend you haven't seen in a long time. Like I try to do those things because there's so many times where I have to say, sorry, I can't, I have a game, or I'm working.
Or something comes up last minute and you're canceling on people. Yeah,
exactly.
It sucks.
So it is hard, and I don't think I do that enough, because I'm always fighting for more work and more time and just trying to keep going.
Yeah. But I feel like even for me now, I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that's not make or break career opportunity, I don't need to be doing this, but I just can't say no because it's hard.
I struggle with that too, because that's a really hard thing, because right now you're in this spot where you're hoping everything will contribute to your career, and you really want to just keep meeting people. Yeah. You never know who you're going to meet at these events or things that might not be great for your career, but you're like, well, I met this producer who knows this person who's going to get me in touch with this person. And it's like, that's how it happens.
Well, what's funny is I almost didn't, when I met you for the first time at the Barrett Media Summit, I went that morning because I was working as a volunteer. But then when we went to like the cocktail hour, I almost didn't go to that. But then I never would have actually had a conversation with you. I never would have met Kate and so many. I met like Courtney Cronin, I remember I met there. So it's just funny. Like I would never have those contacts now. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And even like yesterday, I went to another event in town.
Yeah.
Just to connect. And I was like, I don't know if I should go. It's kind of out of the way. It doesn't really make sense for me to go. I don't know if I'm going to get anything out of it. But I'm glad I went because I met someone I needed to talk to. And you just never know. So I totally get the feeling of not wanting to say no right now.
Yeah.
But I think in your career, eventually you will be able to say no when you feel, and hopefully I will too, where it's like, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And, that's no longer, doesn't serve me. It doesn't pay enough. Give it to someone who needs that experience.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I want to shift a little bit to talk about your podcast because I know that's a really big thing for you. Blue Demon Room. How did that kind of come about? How did that get started? Was it a raw idea that you had, or did someone pitch it to you?
Last August. I think it was last August. Okay. Gosh, time is flying. I don't even know what day it is.
I don't even know what day it is either, so
but about a year ago, Paul Stromberg at DePaul reached out to me, and he was like, hey, Kacy, I have a pitch to run by you. Let me know if you're interested. Basically, we want to start an athletics podcast for DePaul. We want to call it the Blue Demon Room because that was an old hangout for the athletics back in the day.
Yeah.
And we want to interview coaches and, players and alumni, different people that have been instrumental in DePaul athletics. And we really want you to be the host. Yeah. We can't think of anyone to be a better host. And I was just so honored because I was like, thank you for thinking of me. And to know that they have that trust in me meant a lot. And they could have had a student do it, but they were like, we really want a professional presence. We really want your skill set and your expertise and just the way you interview people. Yeah. And so we kind of worked out a deal where we do it bi-weekly. We worked out a rate, and I have a great team on the Blue Demon Room. I have students like Sonia and Kelly and Will and the whole gang that is like producing it behind the scenes and editing it.
Is it fully student produced?
It pretty much is, yeah.
That's awesome.
Paul
I didn't know that.
Has the oversight of it, but it's giving those students in film and everything great experience too, and they're incredible. I mean, dynamite at writing questions, helping me out, booking guests, like. The fact that they know I have other gigs and I don't have as much time to always commit to the podcast has been awesome because they wanna have their hand in it too. And so I trust them with my life, and it was fun. We got to interview a lot of student athletes and coaches and people that have been a big part of DePaul in the past, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, for you, and I feel like this question can kind of go for even your sidelining skills as well. What really makes an interview special to you? What makes an athlete stand out to you? Where are you kind of picking up those skills that are like, oh, this is what's going to really make this interview stand out?
I think getting to the core of who the person is, not what they do. And that's something that I learned from Laura Oakman, who
she's
awesome. She's awesome. Yeah. You know her from Fox. She has that who not do mentality where it's like, who are you? Yes, we cover these sports and we play these sports, but who are you as a person? And kind of peeling back layers to make them a little more personable. And I just find that if you talk to your guests beforehand and make them comfortable, a lot of times they're like, what are you going to ask me? I'm so nervous. Like, what are we talking about? But it's more like, we're just going to talk about you. We're just going to highlight who you are as a person. Yeah. I did a really tough story for NBC a couple months ago. Lonzo Ball, who used to play for the Bulls, now with the Cavs, he has tissue donation in his knee from a donor. And the donor's family finally got to meet Lonzo at a game. And the kid who donated the tissue actually committed suicide. Okay. So I met his parents and his siblings. And, of course, when I sit down with the mother and the kids, it's a hard conversation, right? Yeah. Like, it's not going to be easy. And they looked like they saw a ghost when they saw me. They were like, what are you going to ask us? What are we doing? Yeah. And I was like, I just want to know who your son was.
Yeah.
I just want you to tell me who he was and share that love that you had for him and that he had for sports. And it was a hard interview to do. It was emotional. Understandably so, talking to a mother who lost her son not that long ago. But it was also uplifting because of this young man who took his life, he was able to give tissue donation to Lonzo Ball to continue his athletic career. Yeah. So, and they got to meet Lonzo on the court and got to go to a game. That's awesome. It was a really, good experience for them at the end of the day. But just kind of being human to the other person and saying, I'm not here to ask you a bunch of crazy questions.
No.
I'm not here to intimidate you.
Not trying to make you uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to talk to you about your son and who he was.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And so once I kind of like, we had that moment of like relief, it was a great interview, you know, and you just treat it with care. Not everything is like, hey, in the last 30 seconds, you had this many points. How'd that feel? Or, you know, sometimes it's about human things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's what makes not only reporters stand out, but it's what makes an athlete stand out if they have a good story to them. And it's what I was going to ask, like, what do you think the viewers are taking out of this? But I do think it's the human interest side of things.
Yeah, because everyone can say, hey, you just won the championship game. How does this feel? Or, you know, what was going through your mind when sure. Yeah, those are all, that's fine. But when you try to find a way to ask them something that they haven't been asked before, or that's thoughtful about the game or their teammates, or just something a little bit more unique, that's when people are paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. Blue Demon Room. Have you ever had an athlete with a story that really stood out to you? Something similar to that?
You know, so many of them, they're incredible people that have moved across the country to be a part of DePaul. And we had a golf athlete who has a cool story, not necessarily sad or tragic, but excuse me, not sad or tragic, but he has like a band behind the scenes and he does Beatles covers.
Oh,
and it's
cool.
like things and he's good. He's talented at singing Beatles songs like the way the Beatles sound.
Yeah.
And so things you would never know about these people and interests they have beyond the sport they play, you know? So it's just cool to kind of learn about them as people and what interests them. And, you know, if they're interested in poetry or art or, like I said, music, it's like people are multifaceted and they have different layers to them. And it's not just about, I think when athletes get to say, I'm this too, they feel really good about that.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely, it's so important, but it's hard to do in the moment. It really dig to that like deeper core. What like has been a challenge for you to really get there with an athlete? I
think like just youth, you know, like they're young, like they haven't done a lot of, excuse me, I need to cough.
Good.
Please edit this out.
I
will. Sorry. As I was saying, just the youth of these athletes, like sometimes they're really young and they don't have experience being interviewed.
Yeah.
So they don't know what to say, or they're like, oh my God, can I say that again? Or whatever it might be. And, you know, but you just kind of roll with the punches. Yeah. Like things can be a little bit awkward sometimes. You just kind of keep it going. That's a challenge though. And high school athletes too. I'm interviewing these high school kids for the first time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And they don't even understand my questions sometimes, you know?
Aww. So I did a sideline reporting internship last summer for a baseball team in the Cape League. And it was funny because a lot of the guys, you could tell were a little bit more media trained. Like, oh, if I asked them the most basic question, like, how did it feel? They would be able to answer it and they were like totally fine. And then I would get guys that, you know, were uncomfortable on camera or just never have been interviewed before by a reporter. And I almost kind of thought, I was like, this is a learning moment for you and me. Because I also don't have like all the experience in the world in this. So it was kind of cool to get that. Almost like that little bond, like, okay, we're both like the same age. We're both doing this for the first time.
Let's get through it together.
Let's get through it together. Like, so it was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like not everyone's going to be perfect. And you're going to watch some of your stuff back and be like, oh my God, cringe.
Yeah.
But you get better. Like my first reel, oh my God, ugh. Like you'll get to where you want to be. Yeah. And you make progress over time, and that athlete will too, you know.
Exactly.
Not everything is live. TV is tough.
Oh yeah,
it can be awkward.
I'm like in that first reel phase right now, so I'm watching things back, and I'm like, God, I really thought that was just so good in the moment, and now I'm like, I could have done this so much better. But I think it's important to know that too.
It is. It's important growth, but also like don't be so hard on yourself. You know, you're doing the best you can with what you know right now. Yeah. And I would tell that to anyone watching is like, you're doing the best you can.
Exactly.
Keep going, keep getting better, keep tweaking things, but also know that like no one's watching it as critically as you are.
Exactly.
We're our own biggest critics.
Exactly.
You know, and so when you move your arm in a weird way that you don't like people don't even sometimes notice that stuff.
People aren't going to notice how your head is shifted out weird or your hair is kind of, no one's going to notice that. And I've gone better about this, but I used to be so critical watching myself back, especially when I started doing like sideline reporting for school. I'd be like, oh my God, I look so bad. But at the end of the day, it's like, no one's thinking that.
Right.
You probably don't look super bad.
Exactly.
And that's how do you kind of handle the pressures of needing to look you know, super done up on camera all the time, or, you know, social media is really hard. People are tough all the time, like, especially if you're on,
and it's like, okay, if you think you can do this better, here's the mic.
Here's the mic.
You go do it, you know? And it's like, you're in the elements sometimes, the camera's not lit very well or whatever it might be, and you're in the wind or the snow or the rain and it's freezing and you can barely talk. Like, there's a lot at play.
There's a lot of factors, you know? Yes,
so
exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah. How do you, I know we touched on this a little bit before, but the comparison aspect, it's really hard, especially when you're just starting out, or if you're in college too, you know, you're seeing other girls graduate and they're doing all these things. How have you been able to kind of handle that within yourself? You're meeting other girls, you're making friends, but in a weird way, it's also competitive.
Sure. It is competitive, sadly. And I was just talking with one of my producers about this. Because he was like, why is it so competitive among women? And I was like, I think sometimes the industry pits us against each other.
They do.
You know, and I don't want to like place blame, but it's like, oh, this girl is better than this girl, or she's more blonde, or she's more brunette, or she's prettier, or she's taller, or she's thinner, whatever it might be. And it's like, it shouldn't be about that, but sadly it is. And that makes us feel like we need to also compete. You know, and there's room for all of us. There really is, in different ways and different avenues. More than ever now, there are different ways to be involved in sports.
Oh, yeah.
There's TikTok, YouTube, streaming, podcasts, live TV, whatever it might be. Like, you can work for Gatorade and still be involved in sports. You don't have to be with a team. So there are so many ways in. And I think it's hard because it is so competitive, and you feel like you live and die on every single interview and every single thing you say and do. As a human, you're human. So I will say it's a brutal industry, and sometimes I tell people it's not for the faint of heart, and if you don't have like the thick skin to be like, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You know, this agent might sign someone else because they're blonder, or they know them personally, or they know their dad, or whatever it might be. And so there are things you can't control, and I think good advice that I recently got is like, you got to laugh at the things you can't control.
That's so true. Yeah. If you're missing out on an opportunity for something because someone's blonde or someone's dad or brother or sister, then you just kind of be like, oh well.
It wasn't for me then.
Yeah, it wasn't for me.
You know what I mean? And so it's a tough, unfair business, and the comparison game is really hard, but you don't know what everyone is actually going through, right? Like, you can post on social media how cool this thing is and how great. They don't know behind the scenes it's actually not what it looks like, or it was actually, you know, you did it for free or whatever. You don't know. And so it's so easy to get wrapped up in the fakeness of social media and the editing and the way people portray their lives. And we're all guilty of it, for sure.
100%.
So again, it's just like trying to remember, like my boyfriend always says, like, walk your path. This is what is your path? You know, you cannot run anyone else's race besides your own. And it's like a tough, hard truth, you know, but I'm still trying to figure that out.
I think everyone's always going to be trying to figure that out in different ways, you know?
Yeah.
Do you have a story of a time, you know, this podcast, obviously, we highlight women in sports of all places, but do you have a story where you did really have to advocate for yourself as a woman? You really had to be like, you know what? I know who I am. I know that I got this.
Yeah. In college, actually, it's happened along the way after that. But in college is one of the first times that I had to stick up for myself. There was a guy that I worked with in college who was not very nice, you know, at the student newspaper. And he didn't believe that I should have been the news editor. He didn't think I wrote well enough. He didn't think I did enough. And I interviewed for the editor-in-chief job, which is a job above that. And I didn't end up getting it, which is fine. But he was like making comments about how, oh, you're going to get it because you're wearing a short skirt or your top's low. Or
he said that to you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And said it to other people. And so, you know, it was college immaturity. And it's totally inappropriate and off base. And it's hard to sometimes still hear that, even on social media. You get trolls in your DMs. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just in the business because you're hot, or you're just in the business because, you know, whatever. And it's like, you don't know the work I put in. You don't know what I do. And all women are experiencing this. Oh. You know, it's not just
no matter
me.
how good, how successful, how small, whatever. Yeah.
They're like, great, another woman in sports telling me about men's sports. And it's just like, you have to advocate for yourself and say, I know what I'm doing. I deserve this job. I deserve this role. Yeah. I'm in a place where I worked hard to be in. And I deserve that respect. And sometimes you're not going to get it. And you can't force people to, you can't grab them and be like, you respect me. No. You know, you just have to move on.
It also comes down to their character sometimes. If they really want to talk to you a certain way or treat you a certain way, then you're going to let them do that. And that's not the person that you should be working with.
Well, yeah. And it says more about them than it does about you.
Exactly.
Right? And again, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And you have to accept that for whatever reason, some people in the business just aren't going to be into you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what happens. It is. Yeah.
Exactly. What do you think is so special? Because I know, especially here in Chicago, there's so many communities of women in sports, whether they're on camera or production or editing or even social media. How have you kind of found that community for yourself here in Chicago and throughout your career?
Through social media has actually been great. We always say the comparison game, but it's also a place to connect, right?
100%.
Like, I was able to meet girls and ask girls if they want to grab lunch, or they asked me if I want to grab lunch and get coffee.
Yeah.
The first time I met Taylor, I just said, can we, you know, we just like met up for coffee and walked along like the lakefront.
Yeah.
And I learned a ton from her. And so you meet women through the business who are supporting each other.
Yeah.
And who are helping each other and that want you to succeed and you want them to succeed. And it's like a good feeling. What I love about Chicago is that it feels big, but it also feels small. Like we all know each other. Yeah. You know? We know the girls at Big Ten and at Fox and the different affiliates and NBC and Marquee and CHSN. And so you can feel like we're all in this together because we're doing this in a huge city where there are so many teams and so many avenues. So yeah, I don't know. I like that social media can also bring people together in that way too.
I'm really grateful that I was born and raised here in Chicago because I think kind of for what we were talking about earlier about the media kind of pitting people against each other. I feel that way in school sometimes where it's like, oh, or even internships or other people from other schools that I've met, like, oh, I kind of know her, but I'm almost scared to approach them. Yeah. It's a weird, like, oh, do I say hi? Do I do this? But I feel like a lot of like you or Taylor or other people that I've met are so nice and so approachable. And a lot of times these things are all in our heads.
Totally.
Which is funny.
I feel that way too. Yeah. Like even, you know, meeting women that work for ESPN and work for bigger networks than where I'm at. I'm like intimidated at first. And then they're like really down to earth and they're going through the same things that I'm going through. Yeah. And if you don't go out and, you know, extend a hand to meet them, you're never going to know. You're never going to know.
What are some things, if you could tell 15-year-old Kacy or even 18-year-old Kacy starting school, especially, you know, I feel like we face gender biases from the time we're little about all different aspects in life. If you give her one piece of advice for navigating that challenge, what would you say?
That's a good question. I have to think about that. I think that I would say just try to be where your feet are. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. Like, don't rush ahead. Everything in your life's going to happen in the way that it's supposed to unfold. And I'm talking work and I'm also talking personal stuff too. Like, when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to be married by the time I'm 25 and kids by 27. And this is how it's going to work. Yeah. And it's like, my life didn't turn out that way. No. And my career didn't turn out that way. And, you know, you might think, oh, I wish I was further along now, or I wish I had this or that. But it's all unfolding the way it's supposed to. Yeah. And for you. And I genuinely believe the right things come at the right time, like when you're fully ready. Because I think in the past, I would be like, I really want this gig now and at this time. And it's like, but these other steps had to happen first. Exactly. To get me there and for me to feel confident now in that role. Yeah. You wouldn't have been ready then. And if you get it too early, you're going to lose it.
You're going to lose it. You're not going to do as good of a job as you could.
So I always say, would you rather have a long career to the top or go straight to the top and then you know, kind of explode and fall? Right. You know, so yeah, it's cool when you see women kind of go viral overnight or gain this huge following so quickly, but it's like, I want longevity, not necessarily like fast success.
Exactly. I think especially when you work so hard to put the work into something, and sometimes it is a long haul, but once you get to that place where you want to be, it's so worth it. And that really is the best feeling.
Totally. And I always tell friends that are like struggling in the business too, or when I'm feeling down, I'm like, your dreams can change. 100%. You can leave and come back. Yeah. You can raise kids and come back. You can leave and say, I'm good. I don't need to come back.
It's always going to be there. Yeah. Nothing's ever going away. And even sometimes, even for me, I think about this. I'm like, I have a friend that just posted on like her story. She was like, wouldn't it be so cool to like go to Hawaii after college for a year? Like your degree never expires. And my first thought was like, I can't do that because I have to go straight to this station or do this. Right. But then it's like, I probably could. If I really wanted to, I could do that.
And it would probably be a great experience.
It probably would be.
And I have been trying to travel more and do other things because of those feelings, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be on my deathbed one day, hopefully way, way far away from now, and being like, oh, I'm so glad that I covered that, random baseball game, like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to be glad that I went to Paris with my boyfriend. I'm going to be glad that I met new people along the road.
Yeah.
I'm going to be glad that I spent time with my family in the summer. Like, those are the things that matter. And I think we get caught up in, as women in the business, like trying to fight for our place, that we lose. Like, we're also humans that want to have a nice time in this life and get to experience love and joy and fun. So again, that balance is like what I'm trying to do, now, later in my career, a little bit later in my career, and say, what's really important?
Yeah. That's like perfect advice, I feel like, for me to hear and younger girls to hear, because I know people that are engaged that are 21 years old, 22 years old. I'm like, that's nowhere near where I am right now, and it's freaky. No, it like, but I think just knowing, again, like, know where your feet are, know what's best for you, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's no right path.
Well, totally. And you think about, like, my next goal is to become a regional sideline reporter. It's to work baseball games all year round. Okay, sure, that's great, and I do want to do that. But remember, that's 162 games. Yeah. 162. So you miss a lot of fun things. You miss, events and family and love life stuff and things that are important outside of that. And a lot of women who are in the business in those spots don't get to have those other things. Yeah. So again, it's always a sacrifice. But I do think that, there are ways to do it all, I hope.
100%. Oh, 100%. I think Taylor actually came on and said something similar. She did. She's like, I miss bachelorettes and I miss birthdays and I miss family gatherings, but it's, you kind of pick and choose what you want to do, but you also get to a point where you can do that. And I think that's what there is to be grateful for, which I think is good.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah. I want to shift to where you are now with NBC. Walk me through, you're the evening and night news, correct? So walk me through kind of a day in your life. You wake up in the morning and you're kind of getting ready for the day. How do you prep?
Yeah, it's different every day, but for the most part, like I said, will walk my dog and handle like my business in the morning. Yeah. And then,
are you a morning person?
I am. Like, me too. I feel like lately I get up a lot earlier and like to get things done. Yeah. When I was younger, I slept in. When I was your age, I slept in a lot. Really? Yeah. But I feel like I've shifted. Yeah. But around like 9, 10, 11, that's when I'm eating. I'm starting to look at the news of the day and say, okay, what's going on today? What are our photographers going out to? What games are going on later that we're going to cover? And then I'll touch base with my producer and kind of say, okay, here's what I have planned. Here's what you're thinking. Are we aligned here? What should we start off with? And then around noon, I will start getting ready and kind of just do my hair and makeup, figure out what I want to wear, curl my hair, which takes way too long. Yeah. And then I leave around 2:30, get to work before 3. Okay. And that's kind of like the start of my day. Like basically from 2:30 to 10:30, I'm at the station. So from basically 2:30 to 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'm getting prepared for the 5 o'clock show, writing the show, talking to my producer, changing things up, figuring out what we want to do, watching whatever game might be on, looking at video to kind of make sure everything matches up. So we do that at 5. My sportscast is probably 5:15, 5:20. Yeah. After I get all mic'd up and everything. And then I do it again at 6:15, 6:20. And then we wait until the 10. So you're kind of watching, maybe you're watching the Sox game or the Cubs game, or maybe you're watching the Sky game, you're getting some dinner. So there's a little bit of like lull time, but you're kind of watching the games to make sure that you know what happened during those games. And then I'm also sending emails and getting ready to write new stories. And like just the other day, I went out to Rosemont to cover Athletes Unlimited softball. Yeah. So interviewed Kim Ang, who's the commissioner, and got to do that in the morning. So it's like every day is like usually kind of like 1, 2 o'clock to nighttime. Okay. It's tough getting home really late, like 10:30, 11 after that show, because basically we do the 10:30 sportscast, and then right after that I have to record the morning sports. Okay. So I basically redo my 10 o'clock and change all the tonight's to last night's or yesterday. Gotcha. So it looks like I'm doing it in the morning, and it's like a little TV trick.
Interesting, yeah.
And so then they'll air that the following morning at like 4:15 in the morning. Yeah. And it's me again kind of saying, hey, here's what happened last night in sports. And then I go home and basically crash.
Do it all again the next day.
Walk my dog once more, get ready for bed, and that's it.
Yeah. What about, because you're still doing a little bit of freelance, right, with FS1 and Big East. What about like a typical, you're prepping your notes, you're sidelining. How do you prepare for that?
So it's really fun to be able to still do things with FS1 and the Big East because especially in the spring, that's when a lot of that work happens. I do track and field. I do women's softball. I've done the Big East Baseball Championship for the past 2 years with FS1, and that happens in like late May. So it's really fun to get to still do those opportunities because, one, it's great because it's extra money. So you're kind of like putting, stuff together that way. But also, you get to do different things. You get to sideline. You get to do, like it's good because NBC is kind of anchoring and live reporting. But then at FS1 and Big East, I'm doing sideline, which I love. So it's good to have all those skills kind of intertwining. And what's cool about doing the baseball is like basically a month before I'll start watching some of the games, preparing, looking at what teams might make it to the tournament. Then closer to it, we have calls with all the coaches. So my play-by-play, my analyst, and myself will have calls with our coaches and kind of just talk to them about the team, about the year. Because it's hard because you're kind of dropping in, end of the season, like to kind of make this happen. And you haven't really been watching them all year, right?
True.
From the start.
Yeah.
So you're kind of cramming and learning a lot, and you're figuring out what storylines you're going to talk about. Like, I'm like, okay, I really want to do this story on this catcher who transferred last year and, made a big impact or whatever it might be. And then we talk to the, production crew and I say, I have this, and this planned, fit me in wherever. And so, like sideline reporting, it's cool because you could have these stories planned, but then you might toss it all away if the game shifts
and it
changes. So
do you have a story, and I'm sure you do, where you're like, okay, I have all this prepared, I'm going to talk about this, and then something big happens and you're like, oh, I have to cram this in, and it's kind of stressful.
Softball a couple years ago, the championship on FS1, it might have been FS2, but it was on Fox, and I had all these cool storylines planned, and I did some of them, but then midway through one of the games, a softball came like flying out from the crowd onto the field.
Did someone throw it?
Well, that's what they were debating.
Okay.
They didn't know. And it like flew over my head onto the pitcher's circle, and like they stopped the play, and the referees like the umps wanted to go look at like what's going on. So the officials are like, okay, we need to review this, right? And see where this ball came from. What was the trajectory of the ball? And so I kind of tossed out the rest of my stories, and I was kind of reporting back to my booth about like, they're debating this right now. The umpires and officials are looking at this, and they're not sure if the ball came from the batting practice on the other side from the other team, and like foul ball, or if it was like a disgruntled fan.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being like a story, even though it was kind of odd.
Weird.
They stopped the game for a while because of it, and stuff like that happens all the time, even in like high school football. Like I remember I wrote this whole story for my open about this tight end who was really good, and he was going to be playing tonight, and da-da-da-da-da. And then I get to the field, and the athletic director is like, I noticed he wasn't dressed for the game. And I said, hey, is so-and-so, not playing? He's like, yeah, no, he's hurt.
And you're like,
and I was like, we pre-recorded the open, and now we look stupid because we just told this story about, So, again, not everyone's always going to cooperate with you, and the game might shift, but we just pivoted and kind of made it work.
Yeah.
But it's tough to try to do your job well and also keep up to speed with everything else going on in the game, and you want to do a good job, but like you got to roll with the punches and just kind of pivot. So we came back on camera and said, we know we told you about this kid, but he's actually not playing tonight. Coaches aren't saying much, and you kind of just tell it like it is.
Yeah, you got to be honest. Yeah. It's hard when you have, and I think this is something I learn a lot, and I'm still learning about it, when you really prep hard for something, and especially me in college, I feel like, which is true, I have to take so many notes, especially if it's a sport I might not be too familiar with, and then you put all this work in, and then you get there and you're like, oh, you have to talk about this actually. Right. We don't like that. Or the color guys are saying something about that, so I can't say something about that now. Yeah. And then it's like you kind of have to like, it teaches you really have to communicate and work with the team, but then it also teaches you there's moments where you're like, oh, okay, I need to kind of be on my own and do this.
Well, sometimes your play-by-play will take your hit.
Yeah.
Like my play-by-play guy in the past, one of them said like, hey, what are you going to talk about for the open? And I told him, and then in the open, sure enough, I'm listening on my IFB, and he's doing basically telling my story. And I'm like, guy.
Dude.
Yeah. So he was like, sorry, like I just got caught up in it, and I told it. And so I had to pivot and write something new in like 2 seconds and figure it out. And so you do, but yeah.
But it sucks.
Right.
Yeah. I love doing, like, we have Big Ten Student U at school, and I love that. But I particularly really liked working on the Cape with that broadcast team because it just felt super organized in a way where everyone knew what we were talking about. We had a meeting before. Everyone on the broadcast team knew what my hits were going to be, knew what questions well, not specifically my questions, but they knew the types of questions I was going to ask players. And I always felt like we had that really good communication, and that kind of taught me. I was like, okay, I really like teams of people where we're nice to each other and we communicate well.
Yep. You know? And I do feel like when you have a producer and a team that is prepared and we communicate, the broadcast goes smooth.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, I feel more confident because they're confident.
Yeah.
And they know what's coming and I know what's coming and everybody's doing their job at 100%.
And it's great.
And but it's not always like that.
It's not always like that because sometimes it's, you know, the game does change or someone's benched and it's
or stuff's not working in the booth. Like, you know, there might be graphics that aren't working. Yeah. And so you kind of just have to roll with it and say, it is what it is.
Yeah. And you kind of have to accept that mistakes are going to happen.
Right. It's live TV.
Yeah, it's live TV. I've gone and done hits and my mic isn't working.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's a muted hit. What am I, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to me recently. So even when you're further along,
good to know.
Like they'll be like, hey, we didn't get any of that in there because your mic wasn't working. And I was like, okay, so should I do it again?
Do you want me to do it again? And they're like, oh, no, you don't have to do it again. I'm like,
yeah, you're like, I wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
So
it's
tough when you get home and you're like, man, I can't really use any of that for my reel. But at the end of the day, it's still really good experience and it's making you better and it's making you ready for like turning on a dime and switching things up.
Yeah, it's a good learning experience for sure. So you kind of talked about you have these big goals right now. What are you kind of looking forward to and what's next for you?
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure yet. And that's kind of exciting but also scary. I would love to continue my work at NBC Chicago and do more and more there. I love it there. I love the team, so I want to contribute as much as I can. So that could be definitely an avenue. And if not, you know, I hope to eventually, like I told you before, like maybe work for a regional sports network. I know those are kind of in flux because they used to be Bally, now they're FanDuel, and they're cutting, you know, things here and there. So I'm not sure. I mean, I just want to keep exceeding and keep doing more and more. I would love to get a few, you know, ESPN college football games in the future.
Yeah.
Get to do just more bigger games.
Yeah.
You know, bigger networks. Just keep expanding my, you know, my skill set. But I don't know. It's like it's weird. It's a weird time because it's like a big question mark.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's okay. I feel like there was a question mark last year before I got NBC and that worked out.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. But my goal is to do like either college football or pro baseball more consistently.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to ask you what sport you want to cover. Anything like really out of the ordinary sport that you would be like, oh, I kind of want to cover that.
I think like NASCAR seems fun, or like, no, it's not really out of the ordinary, but like,
it's
NASCAR,
cool.
Motocross seems really cool, like something different.
Yeah.
I know pickleball is really picking up in the broadcast world.
Oh my God, that'd be really
I have
fun.
People that I know that might have, you know, friends of mine and colleagues of mine that are doing play-by-play for pickleball, and it's like, wow, that's really picking up steam
crazy.
there. Yeah. So I'm open to anything. Like you said, like I don't like to say no very often. If it makes sense for my job and my career and it's not really conflicting with anything else, I'll do it. But I just think like sports on wheels would be cool.
Yeah.
I also love golf, so I want to do more golf.
Oh, do you play golf?
I do. Yeah.
Fun.
I'm not very good, but I do love to play. Get out as much as I can. But I think golf, for me, golf, baseball, or football are my 3 favorites.
Yeah.
But I know that, you know, especially football, it's very competitive. So
100%.
Yeah.
And it's fun to try something new. Like for my internship with Fox this past semester, we covered IndyCar and NASCAR, and I knew nothing about it. Right. And now I know something about it, which is cool.
That's like when I covered lacrosse and field hockey, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know about those.
But you figure it out. You find a way. You study and you talk to people who do understand the game better, and you watch a lot of it, and you end up being able to handle it.
Yeah. I know we've been giving a lot of advice, but kind of to close us out a little bit, if you have like a motto or one really strong thing that you like to tell yourself or others, what would it be?
That's tough. I think I have a lot, really. Yeah. Like, I think for me, it's like reminding myself that I can do it. Being where your feet are, like I told you earlier, that one is, like I mentioned before, a big one for me because it's so easy to be like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And what about this? And what about that? And what does this person think of me? And it's like, just remember to be where your feet are and just do today.
Yes,
because that's all you can handle. But I think also good advice that I got from my boyfriend that I've mentioned on another podcast is he always reminds me, like, it takes guts to put yourself in the arena.
It does.
It takes guts to do what you're doing every day, to jump on this podcast with people you don't know, to do a live report on NBC, whatever it is in this field. Like, it takes guts, and that's half the battle, right? Like, just being brave enough to go say, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
you know.
Absolutely.
So remind yourself that it takes guts and to be proud of yourself along the way, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. I think just remind yourself that you're doing something really cool.
Yeah.
And you need to be proud of yourself for it.
Right. And it's a fun job. We get to,
100%.
We get to do this all day, or like work in a baseball field all day.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are stuck in offices all day and don't love what they do. Yeah. And so to be able to say you love what you do is a very rare thing. It's special. Mm-hmm. So important not to take it for granted.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, I do like to close off by asking what makes you fierce in the field. So what do you think really stands out?
I just think my grittiness and my determination to go get whatever it is. Like, not having the traditional background in broadcasting, not being able to do, like, I didn't go to a Big Ten school, so I didn't get Big Ten Student U or like the broadcasting things that other people maybe got. So I kind of just said, go be fierce and figure out a way and go get it, go grab it. And so, like, when I taught myself baton, like, you just have to kind of go out and like figure out a way. And I think that some of the not advice I've gotten, but feedback I've gotten is that, man, you're a grinder, you're a hustler.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, thank you, because I'm proud that I've hustled to get where I want to be.
And it's nice to hear that from people, because you're like, you're right. Like, I am. Yeah. Like, I do work really hard.
So I think the hustle, the grind, I think that all goes along with being fierce in the field.
100%. Oh, well, Kacy, I had so much fun.
Josie, you're amazing. Great interview.
You're amazing. Thank you.
I loved your questions.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If you want to shout out your socials or anything where people can find you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram at Kacy Standohar. So it's like half of my name. Twitter's just my full name at Kacy Standohar. But you can also check everything out on NBC Chicago.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And I hope you loved the episode. Please go check out Kacy. She is amazing. And I'll see you guys soon.